I will stop uploading videos on this channel, and if you'd still like to follow my content, you can find me via my website in the description below. Xiao Yan learns the terrifying truth about heaven cauldrons and emperor pills while personally refining a legendary emperor pill for the first time, then discovers a nearly impossible path to revive his ancestor. That's, of course, my Nine Dragons Flame Cauldron is a famous heaven cauldron in every domain. 10,000 years ago, when I combined my superb alchemy skills with this medicine cauldron, it could be said to be unparalleled under the heavens. Hearing Yi Tianqian's complacent words, although there were some parts of Yi Tianqian's words that he was boasting about, it could be seen from his words that the former had once held great weight in the great world, and this Nine Dragons Flame Cauldron was one of the most important parts. Heaven Cauldron. Recovering his thoughts, Xiao Yan noticed this sensitive word and couldn't help but ask, "That's right, Heaven Cauldron." Yi Tianqian reached out his hand and gently stroked the dark red medicine cauldron. It was as if he was caressing a rare treasure, refining tier 6 and above medicine pills. Ordinary medicine cauldrons will not be able to withstand that wild and violent energy. Only some special medicine cauldrons would be able to withstand it. This type of medicine cauldron, people call them heaven cauldrons. The higher the quality of the medicine cauldrons, the better. It was rumored that heaven cauldrons were divided into 9 heavens. The most mysterious cauldron of the 9 heavens was said to be able to increase the success rate of refining a tier 9 saint pill by 30%. Although it only belongs to the 5-day cauldron, when refining an ordinary 8th grade medicine pill, it's as easy as lifting a finger. Saint pill. Success rate increased by 30%. Xiao Yan was deeply shocked by the news that Yi Tianqian had said. He could not help but bare his teeth. He did not know how difficult it was to refine a holy pill, but to refine a grade 9 treasure pill in the lower realm. He still had the experience of refining a 9th grade profound core that was extremely exhausting. Even Xiao Yan, after advancing into the fighting monarch, even Xiao Yan could not guarantee that the success rate of refining a 9th grade profound core would be 100%. It had already reached a qualitative transformation. It was not easy to increase the success rate by 10%. For alchemists, even if it were to increase the success rate by 1,000th. Furthermore, the cauldron of the 9 heavens could increase the success rate by 30%. If an alchemist who possessed the soul of a sage were to control the cauldron of the 9 heavens to refine medicine pills, Xiao Yan's heart trembled violently when this thought appeared. Immediately, his hot blood began to boil. This scene should be sufficient to shake the various regions. However, ever since the end of the ancient era, 700,000 years ago, not to mention the cauldron of the 9 heavens, I haven't even heard of the cauldron of the 8 heavens. Currently, there are less than 3 cauldrons of the 7 heavens in the great world. At the end of his words, Yi Tianqian's voice became softer and softer until it was almost inaudible. Although Xiao Yan could only vaguely hear a few words, it didn't stop him from thinking about the crazy idea that suddenly popped up in his mind. Only when Yi Tianqian snorted lightly did Xiao Yan come back to his senses. He looked at the 9 Dragons Flame Cauldron that was as tall as a person. Immediately he said with some disbelief, "Elder Yi, it is only refining ordinary emperor pills. There is no need for this 9 Dragons Flame Cauldron." Yi Tianqian's old face twitched when he heard this. He looked at Xiao Yan and snorted, "Do you think I'm willing? Using the 5-day cauldron to refine the emperor pill. It's simply an insult to its name." After a pause, Yi Tianqian's tone changed. He said with a helpless and bitter smile, "But there's no other way. The other medicine cauldrons with slightly better quality on my body have long lost their spirituality after such a long time. Only this 9 Dragons Flame Cauldron is as good as it was before. Furthermore, low-grade emperor pills must be refined within medicine cauldrons. This way you can also see more clearly." KK. A trace of gratitude involuntarily flowed through his heart. Xiao Yan did not know what to say. He could only laugh dryly a couple of times, after which he could not wait to get closer. He went forward and said, "Elder Yi, shall we begin?" Yi Tianqian nodded. He waved his sleeve, and a large cluster of origin monarch chi suddenly solidified. A cluster of extremely faint blue flame surged out from his finger. It exploded into the origin monarch chi, which had a frozen expression on its face. In an instant, the origin monarch chi was like dried wood that had encountered a raging flame. Then the blue flame suddenly rose into the air. It carried a faint water vapor along with it. Then, with a whistling sound, it pounced on the 9 dragons' flame cauldron like a wave. Just as the blue flame touched the 9 dragons' flame cauldron, the 9-stone inscription, Fire Dragon's Dragon Eyes, on the wall of the cauldron suddenly lit up, after which the blue flame instantly disappeared. Under Xiaoyan's shocked gaze, the 9 fire dragons that were emitting blue flames seemed to have come alive at this moment. They gently circled around the cauldron. In just a few breaths' time, the 9 dragons' flame cauldron's cauldron wall was immediately covered by a layer of blue. In the next moment, the 9 dragons' flame cauldron began to tremble slightly. This indicated that it could be placed into the medicinal ingredients. Xiaoyan, who had regained his senses, could not help but exclaim, "Good fellow, it was indeed of a high grade." Even the activation method was so unique. As his thoughts ran wild, 50 sets of medicinal ingredients to refine the Return Clarity pill had already appeared in front of Yi Tianchen. He took a glance at the medicinal ingredients that were 20 more sets than before. Yi Tianchen did not say anything. With a gentle hook of his finger, a set of medicinal ingredients automatically flew in front of him. "Watch carefully. During the process, I will slow down my technique. If there is anything that I do not know, I will ask at any time." A faint voice resounded in Xiaoyan's mind. At the same time, Yi Tianchen had already thrown the white pearl lotus that he had obtained from the 4 medicinal ingredients into the 9 dragons' flame cauldron. Xiaoyan immediately discarded all distracting thoughts and focused all his attention on Yi Tianchen's every action. After that, he relied on his many years of experience in refining medicine, pills, to swiftly understand it and memorize it in his heart. The moment the white pearl lotus entered the 9 dragons' flame cauldron, a blue fire dragon suddenly appeared out of thin air within the originally empty cauldron. When Xiaoyan saw this familiar fire dragon, he was first stunned. Then he quickly looked outside the cauldron. There were originally 9 fire dragons circling around the medicine cauldron, but now there were only 8 of them left. "Elder Yi, this is..." Seeing this scene, Xiaoyan was about to ask something when he was interrupted by Yi Tianchen. "This is the unique property of the Heaven Cauldron. Refining a Tier 6 and above medicine pill requires hundreds and thousands of medicinal ingredients. If the flames were to take up too much of the space within the cauldron, you only need to pour the flames into the infusion port of the cauldron wall. With the intelligence of the Heaven Cauldron, it would pour the flames into the cauldron at the most appropriate moment. This did not require human manipulation. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have enough origin monarch chi in your body." As he spoke, the blue fire dragon was like a bolt of blue lightning. It instantly wrapped around the white jewel lotus, twisting its body. The white pearl lotus had already turned into a stream of pure medicinal liquid and flowed down. The fire dragon's body trembled slightly again. A ball of flame appeared out of thin air and completely wrapped around the white medicinal liquid, after which this cluster of flame was swallowed by the fire dragon. The fire dragon let out a soft cry. Its body twisted. When it appeared again, it was already outside the 9 dragons' flame cauldron. The fire infusion port is a part of the cauldron's artifact spirit, and it can also be used as a jade bottle to store medicinal liquids. The medicinal properties of the medicinal liquids stored in the fire infusion port will not suffer any loss. As he introduced, Yi Tianchen casually threw the 3 leaves profound flower into the cauldron. Like a white pearl lotus, another day's fire dragon entered and wrapped the medicinal liquid that was burned into his body. Very quickly, the 4 medicinal ingredients were completely refined. Yi Tianchen gently smiled and said, "Just 4 medicinal ingredients. I really don't have the slightest feeling. Back then, when I competed with a few other old fellows to refine a peak tier 8 medicine pill, I wonder how grand that scene was. Recalling the scene of refining an 8th grade medicine pill back then, Yi Tianchen could not help but be fascinated. Thousands of different kinds of medicinal herbs were extracted from the medicinal liquid at the same time. The blue and brown flames in the 9 dragons' flame cauldron formed fire dragons one after another. It was too much for his eyes to take in. The other few people's heaven cauldrons were also mixed with different colored flames, illuminating the sky with a 7-colored radiance. Heh. Shaking his head gently, Yi Tianchen looked at the serious Xiao Yan and said, "Extract the medicinal liquid from the medicinal ingredients. This step should be the same as the lower realm." Seeing Xiao Yan nod his head, Yi Tianchen pondered for a moment. He said, "The next step is to fuse the medicinal liquid. To form the embryonic sovereign pill this step. If one were to carefully study it, there are still some differences between it and the lower realm." As he spoke, Yi Tianchen flicked his finger. 4 balls of blue flames emerged from within the cauldron. Within the flames, a rich medicinal liquid emitted a light medicinal fragrance. Xiao Yan took a sniff and his eyes lit up. It was just as Elder Yi had said, the medicinal properties did not weaken in the slightest. The moment the 4 clusters of flames appeared, they slowly gathered together under Yi Tianchen's control. During this process, Yi Tianchen placed one hand on the body of a fire dragon. The origin monarch. Qi around his body suddenly paused and surged towards the fire dragon. The fire on the fire dragon's body immediately flourished. Not a trace of the origin monarch Qi that surged over was left behind and was absorbed into the latter's body. Almost at the same moment that the origin monarch Qis from the outside world entered the fire dragon's body, a large number of cauldrons appeared out of thin air around the 4 clusters of flames within the cauldron. All of them surged into the flames that were gradually merging together. Following the influx of the origin monarch Qis, the medicinal fragrance also seemed to gradually become stronger. The fusion of the medicinal liquid requires a large number of origin monarch Qis to catalyze. Hence, every alchemist needs to have sufficient origin monarch Qis in their body at any time. This is also the reason why every alchemist is a cultivation genius. After all, without sufficient origin monarch Qis in their body, no matter how talented an alchemist is, it will be difficult to cook without rice. As he spoke, the 4 clusters of pure medicinal liquid finally merged together. Following the disappearance of the flame, a round embryonic form of an emperor pill appeared in Xiao Yan's eyes. "This is embryonic emperor pill," Xiao Yan softly muttered. He involuntarily inhaled a deep breath of air. The embryonic form of the emperor pill, which had once caused Hun Tiandi to go crazy, was actually refined in this manner. Embryonic form of the emperor pill can be considered as well. The next step is the most important step. Yi Tianchen smiled gently and slowly said, "Origin monarch Qi, a large number of origin monarch Qis." The refinement of medicine pills in a large world is not as complicated as in the lower realm. As long as an alchemist is patient and careful, most ordinary alchemists will be able to reach around the 2nd tier after countless practice. If one has enough origin monarch Qis within one's body that can be squandered, then a 4th stage alchemist isn't a problem either. The refinement of medicine pills below the 4th tier is very simple. It only requires medicinal herbs, medicinal formulas, and soul energy. As long as the embryonic form of the emperor pill is successfully merged this medicine pill. Next, it was the infusion of large amounts of medicine pills. The quality of the medicine pills that were infused with 100% of the origin monarch Qis was naturally higher than the medicine pills that were infused with only 50% of the medicine pills. Even if it's just a small revival pill, the highest quality medicine pills refined would still be comparable to some 2nd-grade medicine pills. After listening to Yi Tianchen's experiences, Xiao Yan hurriedly remembered them in his heart. These were all invisible treasures, and at crucial moments they could help him avoid taking many detours. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Tianchen waved his sleeve, causing a rustling sound in the dense origin monarch Qi. Soon the embryonic emperor pill gradually became bright under the nourishment of a large number of origin monarch qis. A faint glow was also revealed. The color changed from a single white to a faint red. The medicinal properties hidden within the medicinal liquid had been completely stimulated at this moment. Yi Tianchen only stopped pouring the medicinal liquid after around 4 to 5 minutes. He beckoned with his hand, and the pale red medicine pill within the cauldron flew to the palm of the former. Yi Tianchen's eyes swept across the returning clarity pill that was emitting warmth in his hand. He threw it to Xiao Yan and said, "This medicine pill has reached the limit of absorbing origin monarch qis. You can feel it after consuming it later. According to my estimation, even if the origin monarch qi in your body can't recover quickly, it will recover by more than half in a short period of time." Xiao Yan's face was filled with excitement as he looked at the pale red medicine pill in his hand, which was the size of a longan. Although the gathering yuan pill from before was much higher in grade compared to the returning clarity pill, it was still a fighting monarch that had ascended from the fighting qi continent. The title of Emperor Pill was enough to attract even more attention from Xiao Yan. Now this was the legendary medicine pill in the fighting qi continent. Hong Long. Now Xiao Yan could finally understand why ancient monarch Tuo Shi only left the embryonic form of the sovereign pill. Fighting qi continent didn't have a large number of origin monarch qi to complete the final step of the sovereign pill. One embryonic pill was already the limit of the lower realm. If you understand, then use this 9 dragons flame cauldron to try refining it, using the 5-day cauldron as the first cauldron to refine the pill. This brat's luck is not ordinary. Xiao Yan was slightly overwhelmed by emotions when he heard this, after which he inhaled a deep breath of air. The suction force on his palm increased explosively. A 3-leaf profound flower had already appeared in his hand. Grabbing the air with his hand, a cluster of scarlet flames rose into the air. After spinning a few times in the air, it shot straight towards the 9 stone inscription fire dragons. The flames surged into the fire dragons' bodies and instantly disappeared. Very quickly, a layer of crimson color surged onto the bodies of the 9 fire dragons. As if they had a life of their own, they quickly swam around the 9 dragons' flame cauldron. While the fire dragons were swimming on the wall of the 9 dragons' flame cauldron, the wall of the 9 dragons' flame cauldron was also covered by a layer of red. Seeing that the initial preparations had been successfully completed, Xiao Yan calmed his mind and relaxed his palm. The 3 leaves profound flower had already been thrown into the cauldron. Before it landed at the bottom of the cauldron, a scarlet fire dragon had appeared out of thin air. With a roar, a pale black medicinal liquid separated and was wrapped by a cluster of flame into the fire dragon's body. After separating the other 3 medicinal ingredients, Xiao Yan's expression was calm. His many years of experience in alchemy had allowed him to develop a state where his mind remained calm. Immediately, his spiritual strength flowed out from between his brows and wrapped around the 9 dragons' flame cauldron. He was able to receive any changes within the cauldron at the first possible moment. His soul power wrapped around the 4 clusters of flames tightly. Under the urging of Xiao Yan's mind, his soul power poured into the medicinal liquid within the flames and controlled the 4 clusters of medicinal liquid to slowly merge together. Under the control of Xiao Yan's soul power, which was comparable to a late true monarch stage, the 4 clusters of medicinal liquid gradually showed signs of merging together. Puff! Just as the 4 balls of medicinal liquid were about to fuse together, the flame suddenly trembled slightly. Xiao Yan immediately cursed in his heart. Indeed, the medicinal liquid that was in the midst of fusing instantly exploded, like a black slag that was incinerated by a fire dragon that appeared out of thin air. Xiao Yan's expression did not change after his first failed pill refinement. His finger gently tapped the space between his brows. After pondering for a moment, he waved his hand once again, and another set of medicinal ingredients floated in front of him. With his first experience, Xiao Yan had a more precise control over the soul power when refining medicine pills. As the medicinal properties rose and fell, Xiao Yan's soul would also sometimes be big and small. The intensity of the flames would sometimes be mild and sometimes violent. With the enhancement of the prestige power spell's aura, Xiao Yan's control over the flame once again went up another level. The flame gradually extinguished, and an uneven embryonic medicine pill appeared. Looking at the medicine pill, Xiao Yan let out a light sigh. This time it was the most critical step. He stretched out his palm and pressed it against the fire infusion point. The origin monarch. Qi in his body followed his mind's control and surged out through the meridians on his arm, entering the fire dragon's body. In Xiao Yan's body, the 9 origin chains buzzed. One after another, extremely pure origin monarch qis shot out from within, continuously flowing through the specific meridians. At the same time that the origin monarch qis were consumed, a large amount of mottled origin monarch qis flowed into Xiao Yan's body, following the meridians of the flame mantra and entering the origin monarch crystal to replenish the consumed origin monarch kiss. Within the 9 dragons' flame cauldron, a large amount of pure origin monarch keys poured into it, continuously catalyzing the emperor pill. Under the replenishment of the origin monarch, the surface of the medicine pill gradually became smooth. Specks of crystal light reflected off it, and at the same time a faint medicinal fragrance assaulted his face. Xiao Yan's spirits were lifted when he smelled this medicinal fragrance. Immediately the strength of the origin monarch qi that he poured in became a little stronger. The 9 origin chains' buzzing sound could even be heard outside his body. In just a little over a minute, Xiao Yan felt a weak feeling being transmitted from within his body. When he sensed this, Xiao Yan could not help but frown. Using the evolved flame mantra to absorb the origin monarch qi's power and refine it, he could only endure for a short period of time. Without the origin monarch qi pouring in, the medicinal film on the surface of the medicine pill's body slowly dissipated. A bright and clean medicine pill the size of a longan appeared in front of Xiao Yan, emitting wisps of hot air. Emperor pill? Xiao Yan grabbed the medicine pill in his hand. He looked at the medicine pill in his hand with an excited expression. It was a legendary medicine pill in the fighting Qi continent. Currently, he could already rely on his own ability to refine it. I do have some experience in refining true monarch stages. However, I am still not very familiar with the infusion of origin monarch qis. Moreover, I do not have a good grasp of the true monarch stage's soul. With the level of your cultivation technique and the richness of the origin monarch qis in your body, you will definitely be able to break through for 2 minutes. Just as Xiao Yan was sighing with emotion, Yi Tianqin's voice suddenly rang out, pointing out some of the mistakes he made while refining the medicine pill. Medicine pill below the 4th stage basically has this method. To put it nicely, this stage is to hone one's experience. Actually, it is to burn medicinal herbs. Remember, the great world would never lack alchemists below the 4th stage. Alchemists of this level could only flaunt their prowess in some small cities. In the various regions, alchemists of the 4th stage and above, to be respected by others. Upon hearing these words, Xiao Yan couldn't help but be slightly moved. Although what Elder Yi said might be true, it was enough to prove the preciousness of a high-rank alchemist. The soul of a true monarch stage as one's strength increases. Those who could become an alchemist were all geniuses in cultivation. As such, most people could reach the peak of the true monarch stage's soul. This level of soul could be used to refine a Tier 3 medicine pill. Although it wasn't easy, the success rate could be considered to be at the 6th or 7th level. However, if one wanted to refine a Tier 4 medicine pill, one must be at the alien realm soul. With this, the number of alchemists who could refine it decreased significantly. Not everyone had a strong soul that could break through the shackles. There was no special experience in transforming into an alien realm. The soul of a true monarch stage was the limit of a large number of alchemists. This was also the reason why alchemists above the 4th stage were so precious. Right now, your soul is at the peak of the middle stage, only half a step away from the late stage. Work hard and try your best to reach the late stage before leaving the illusion realm, and you will be able to concoct a Tier 2 medicine pill. Yi Tianqin smiled faintly. He waved his sleeve, and the 9 dragons flame cauldron appeared beside Xiao Yan. You should increase your experience these few days. Today, 1 month later, I want to see 30 recovery pills that are a little better than the ones you refined earlier. Xiao Yan was stunned. His eyes gradually lost focus as he mumbled, "Leave." Suddenly, his whole body trembled. He hurriedly said, "Elder Yi, I have something to ask you." The space not far away distorted. Yi Tianqian's voice was heard. "What is it?" Xiaoma took a deep breath. He flicked the storage ring with his finger, and a pure and thin soul mark appeared in his hand. He looked at the soul mark that had gained a trace of vitality under the nourishment of the origin monarch Qi. Xiao Yan raised his head and looked at the distorted space. "Elder Yi, do you know how to revive the person who only has a soul mark left in the lower realm?" A deep voice came from the space. After a pause, Yi Tianqian's figure suddenly appeared on Xiao Yan's face. He looked at the soul imprint in Xiao Yan's hand and said with surprise, "Why is this soul imprint so weak?" Xiao Yan's face turned bitter. He recounted what happened to Desolate Xuan, including the last words that Desolate Xuan said. "What a bastard!" After listening to Xiao Yan's narration, Yi Tianqian murmured in a low voice. When he saw Xiao Yan's eyes filled with hope, Yi Tianqian smiled helplessly and started to think with his finger lightly tapping on his forehead. After a long time, Yi Tianqian finally nodded under Xiao Yan's surprised gaze and said, "Yes, yes, yes." Seeing Yi Tianqian's hesitant look, Xiao Yan became anxious. Just as he was about to ask, Yi Tianqian said in a deep voice, "From this soul imprint, your ancestor must have touched the threshold of the fighting monarch when he was alive. His soul has been nourished by a trace of the origin monarch Qi. Although he had fallen, the origin monarch Qi in his soul mark was still there. There was still a great chance for him to revive, but..." Seeing Xiao Yan's eyes suddenly brighten up, Yi Tianqian sighed and said, "But the things needed are too harsh." Xiao Yan heard this and secretly let out a sigh of relief. When he heard the last sentence, Xiao Yan's eyes lit up and said, "What do you need? Firstly, you must at least reach the level of a Tier 6 alchemist. Secondly, your soul must reach the level of an illusionary realm. Lastly, you must have a monarch flame that has a nourishing effect on your soul." Hearing the first 2 requirements, Xiao Yan's expression did not change much. Although he did not meet any of these 2 requirements, he was confident that he would definitely reach that level in the future. However, when he heard the last condition, he could not help but be stunned. "The monarch flame that can nourish the soul," Xiao Yan said with a bitter smile. This condition seemed to be a little harsh. Monarch Flame Rankings 21st Spirit Soul D Yan. Speaking of this kind of monarch flame, even if it was Yi Tianqian, who possessed a powerful monarch flame like the 1,000 Leaves ancient monarch fire, soul accumulating spirit, Dian. It was one of the most peculiar flames on the monarch flame ranking. Although its ranking was not very high, it was rumored that this flame was one of the most unique flames on the monarch flame ranking. Those who possessed it wouldn't be able to increase their strength by even a little bit, but their soul energy would increase by a lot in an instant. It could also nourish the soul and continuously strengthen the soul. This monarch flame can be considered to be specially created for alchemists. Hearing Yi Tianqian's evaluation of the soul accumulating spirit Di Yan being so high, Xiao Yan couldn't help but be stunned. This was the first time he had heard of such a flame that could increase the strength of one's soul. Soul accumulation divine flame. When I first became a saint, at that time, I was the judge of the Pill Assembly of the Middle Domain's Zhongtian Empire, the great elder of the Middle Domain's Pill World, whose strength had reached the Saint Realm, personally presided over it. It was also at that time that I witnessed the might of the soul accumulation divine flame. The moment the flame appeared, the expressions of the hundreds of thousands of genius alchemists changed dramatically. I still remember that scene until now. Unfortunately, before I died, the Grand Elder died from key deviation during his cultivation. I wonder where the soul accumulating spirit Diyan went. Xiao Yan was similarly shocked. The pill competition, which was able to make the Supreme Saint the judge, must also be of a high level. The expressions of hundreds of thousands of competitors changed drastically. Nearly 10,000 people knelt down, although it was possible that it was because of the great elder's powerful strength. It was sufficient to show how terrifying the soul-accumulating spirit Dian was. Of course, the soul-accumulating spirit Emperor Yan's attraction to alchemists is not here. Its legend is the one that attracts the most people. Speaking up to this point, according to legend, the soul-accumulating spirit Emperor Flame and the Monarch Flame that is ranked 5th on the Monarch Flame ranking. The Sacred Soul Flame has a trace of a connection. The Sacred Soul Flame. Is it a flame that can become a kind of ultimate saint, or a flame that can allow one's soul to reach the sage realm? However, the news that Yi Tianqin revealed was once again deeply shocking. Xiao Yan's mouth could not help but dry up. Soul-transforming fire, damn it. Just its ranking alone was enough to make people dizzy. Soul-nourishing Emperor Flame. This thing, its background is actually so awesome. Hey, I've said a bunch of nonsense. In short, if you want your ancestor to revive, even if you can't obtain the soul-accumulating spirit Emperor Flame, you can still obtain other rare treasures that can nourish the soul. Xiao Yan smiled bitterly, and his eyes lit up. Suddenly he said in a low voice, "Elder Yi, if the illusion is destroyed, can you leave a soul mark on it?" Yi Tianqin's heart skipped a beat, and he slowly nodded his head. Seeing this, Xiao Yan grinned and said with a sincere smile on his handsome face, "When the time comes, I will do everything I can to help you revive." His calm voice was filled with a strong and unquestionable tone.